Hello, everybody. Here we are again on video number 7 on our Shows and Features YouTube channel. Today we are with Chris Marchant, and welcome, Chris. And thank you so much for your film, Witch, and tell us a little bit about yourself as a filmmaker.
Sure thing. So yeah, I've been making short films for a number of years now, primarily as a writer, with the great James Skinner, often directing a lot of stuff I've done. A friend of the show, as it were, and this particular one was the first one that I had wrote and directed, and it was really inspired from the tales we tell children sometimes, the little lies, just to try and keep them in line. And it also combined with an idea that came to me during COVID, when my boss would constantly have his home office interrupted by his young daughter while he was trying to have quite tricky business chats. So that's kind of what all came together with Witch, and together with some inspiration from previous horrors, which is definitely a genre I take an interest in myself as a filmmaker as well.
Can I ask you, how did you start as a writer? And I know you have a writing background. What do you write about, and how did you get the idea of writing films?
So yeah, this goes back to literally when I was about 12 or 13 was the first time I really took an interest in the idea of writing for film or television. This ended up with me studying film studies at uni, and also unfortunately realizing that it's a pretty tough nut to crack to make it professionally. But being paid to write was important to me, which is why I currently work as a journalist while still trying to make it in the screenwriting industry. The thing that interests me with horror is it's the intensity of the emotion that can be enjoyed in a contained environment. Like, it's basically feeling the adrenaline rush of genuine fear, but also you can get up from your sofa and go to bed or go for a smoke afterwards. You're not actually in that experience, but you can get those emotions, and you can also wind in quite interesting things within horror as well. Obviously, so many great horrors have a through line of social commentary within them as well. So those are all ideas that have kind of drawn me to horror as a genre previously.
Tell us a little bit about the Witch as a project from the beginning. So from you writing the screenplay to the actual production process, finding the money, shooting, post-production, and all the way to festivals. How was it?
This was a really interesting project for me because it's the only project I've worked on that I've really had my finger on the pulse through the whole way. Like, I came up with the idea myself, I wrote the script, I produced it, I directed it, I had a handover post as well, and just, yeah, it's something I'm really proud of, because it's literally a whole film that wouldn't have existed if I hadn't put in an absolutely enormous amount of work to get it over the line. The funding was a tricky one. Because this was my first project, I decided I was going to self-fund this one just to prove that I could go do every other stage, and then from then on I could be looking at further funding opportunities, but with a credit behind me to say, hey, you can look at my previous work as well, was my thinking behind it. So yeah, I wore 3 hats for this one: producer, writer, director. I really enjoyed the producing. Obviously very, very time consuming. You're trying to get all your ducks in a row, and you've got to speak to all the various elements of cast and crew to make sure that they're all going to turn up on the day. So challenging, but also very fun. Writing, like I said, that's really been my passion for a long time now, so that was something I settled into quite quickly. Directing, of the 3, was probably the one I struggled with most, because it was all just concentrated on the day, and it's not producing, I mean, is very full on, but it's over a great period of time. Or directing all at once, all the time, so you've really got to be on it for 2 days. I was doing 10,000 steps a day in our weekend of directing, and this was entirely shot within my house, so I was just pacing around trying to get stuff sorted. So the shoot in total was 2 days. There was a tiny bit of ADR that was done, but really that was the shoot.
Can you tell us a little bit how you went through the process of casting with Mandy? Because I'm sure quite a lot of people would like to know. Tell us.
Yeah, so my process, I must admit, I was a little bit privileged in the sense that I knew someone who worked for Mandy who was able to bump my posts for free. So I wouldn't necessarily reflect my experiences with everyone else's. One piece of advice I would give, though, is don't make any casting choices until your casting window is closed. Now, that might seem like a very obvious thing, but to me, the problem was I had someone come through who was fairly strong fairly early on for one of the roles, and I gave them a provisional offer. And then someone came through at the end who was so strong. I was like, oh, no, that's actually the person. I should have held on to the very end, because even there literally hadn't been anyone put a self-tape through for 3 or 4 days before the end of the timeline. So I thought the whole thing had wrapped up. Then this person came through and was like, nope, that's the person I want. So that's an obvious one. Hold on to the end. Do try and reply to actors if they've been unsuccessful, because they're still taking the time to record a self-tape too. So that's the least you can do out of politeness as well.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with the choices I've made. Nick Popo, I thought, is a really good actor who's gone on to do features since then.
Because you had to find a child actor. How was it working with the child actor and so on? And also, in terms of child protection, was you had a chaperone on set, and did that have an impact in your shooting, the child shooting hours and so on? How did you handle all of that?
Yes, you do have to be cautious of it. When you're putting your shot list together, you need to really try and consolidate all the scenes with the child actor in, because they can only work for, it's been a couple of years now, but I believe it's 6 hours a day maximum. And no one wants to be breaking child labor laws. You need to make sure that you get every piece of footage that you can from it. But also, the balancing act, you don't want to be a slave driver. You need to make sure the child is relaxed and comfortable, and they're not feeling like they're being overworked at the same time. So it is a tricky balancing act.
Yeah. And how did you find that, because many children have their mom or dad on set and so on? How was that for you?
It was really helpful having Claire on board. Yeah, it just made things much more comfortable for everyone, really. And obviously, I would speak with some acting directions directly to Thea, but a lot of the times it was conversations with Claire as well, to make sure that both of them really understood what we were trying to go for in every scene. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about post-production and gradually going to festivals and so on. Tell us.
Sure thing. Post-production was a challenge. I didn't have any background in editing myself, but I had quite a specific idea of what I wanted the way the film to look like. So there's a lot of back and forth with the edit in the end. And in the end, it was James Skinner, who was first AD on this film and is enormously helpful to my career as always. He also came through with the edit as well to really kind of put together what I was looking for. And
James edited it.
Yes, he's co-editor on the film as well. Yeah,
James, we love you. Okay, this is a Shorts to Features Productions. Okay,
exactly. And yes, VFX as well. There was one scene with VFX in, which was more challenging to put together than every other scene combined. As you can imagine, with the short, with the level of budget you've got to actually have VFX shots in there as well. But yeah, like I was super happy with it. And the person who did the VFX for it actually went on to do VFX for his next short, which ended up being nominated for an Oscar for Best Short. So yeah, wow. I don't like to say I helped him on that road, but it was certainly nice to have an Oscar nominated person on my cast or crew even.
Tell us a little bit about submitting it to festivals. How was that?
That was good. That was really interesting. I didn't use any particular festival strategy. I didn't pay for a festival strategist, as I'm aware has been done. I just wanted to get it played in front of a few audiences. I wasn't really dreaming of, like, a BAFTA nomination or anything crazier out there with this film. I just wanted to get there in a few cinemas and see it actually screen to people. So really, I was as much picking the cities as I was picking the festivals at some point. Which let me list some good places. The Birmingham Film Festival was one example where it played, and that was in a proper cinema screen that was full, and it was really great to see the audience hit every beat of what I was aiming for in the story. And I think a real highlight that was at the it's only a small festival, but it's really well run by good people, called the Funny Life Film Festival in London, and that was a full screening, and it won the audience award there, which was really great to see people respond to it and then know they're responding to it by actually winning an award like that.
So if you could go back and change one thing, what would you, in the film as it is now, what would you change? What would you do different?
Oh, that's a really good question. There was continuity in this VFX scene. a lot of it's from Thea's perspective, but there was reverse shots we did from the dad and the other woman that weren't from her perspective. And when we look back at the edit, we realized all of that was wasted, because all of these shots that we've done with those late in the day, really trying to get those over the line, they don't work because they're not from the child's perspective, and we need to scrap that completely. So that was, it's getting the end of a weekend, it's stressful, everyone's tired, we're still trying to get these shots in, and we've actually looked really hard at the shot list and continuity of what we're trying to achieve. That wasn't needed. So yeah, looking like that in the future, looking really hard at every shot and seeing, does it make sense in the script to save everyone time and effort, would be something I'd do differently in the future.
If you could give some advice to our filmmakers that are on their first film or their second film, what advice would you give them based on your experience on Witch?
That's a good question. I mean, the obvious thing is, the key thing to making movies is making movies, which took me a long time to fully appreciate. I mean, I dreamt of making movies up until I think I was 29 or 30 when I finally actually directed a film after, 15 years of actually thinking about the idea. So yeah, going out and actually making a film is the most important thing. But I think you've really got to back yourself. You've really got to back yourself with an idea that you think deserves to get made, because if there's any doubts about that, they're only going to magnify as the scale goes up. So get an idea you're 100% by, and then do everything to get it made. I mean, these seems like very obvious advice, but at the same time, how many people want to make films and don't make films because they don't go out and make films?
And actually on that, can I ask you, because I think it's very interesting and very true what you just said. What is it that stopped you from making films, you think?
I think before I got back in touch with James, because I went to a uni with James, that's where I met him, I'd always dreamed of hitting it big, writing the feature or the TV show that everyone goes, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, we're going to spend $100 million on getting it made. And the reality is maybe that'll happen, but that happens after, a 25, 30-year career. On this stage, you just got to start getting stuff made to prove, and just, seeing actors perform your lines is the very first stage, which you really need to approach.
Yeah, and I think it's going from my bit of advice as well. Just getting things made gets you seen. Basically, the idea that an unknown writes 100 million films is virtually unheard of, because and it's a step by step. So you need to make a short, be noticed for a short. Maybe you do a TV series, then you do a feature, then you do a bigger feature. You need to get a bigger agent. So it's a step by step, especially for writers. It's very hard to get any scripts in front of people that can actually finance a big film without a writing agent. So yeah, that's something to think about. Chris, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure talking to you. And so guys, go and watch Witch, and obviously this is going to be the interview with Chris. One last thing that I forget to mention sometimes: remember, when you go and watch Witch on our YouTube channel, remember to subscribe to the channel, and remember to go on Instagram and put a like on the promo. Chris, thank you so much. Spread the word, tell all your actors, and then let them know that it's on YouTube. They can watch it again. Thank you very much, and see you soon.